Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling video game compendium, is a book that I wrote, and the Kickstarter launches on 6/16/2025. How you doing? Oh, how you doing, Dan Dans? My name is Ian. Maybe you've heard the news, maybe you haven't. I'll make this quick. Maybe you've watched my show, Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series, where I cover wrestling games of all kinds, the old stuff, the new stuff. These are deep diving retrospectives. You love them. The news is I have turned Triangle X Squared Circle into a book. Introducing Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling video game compendium. This is the book that wrestling fans and gamers have been waiting for years. And I know that they've been waiting for it for years because I'm a wrestling fan and a gamer, and I've been waiting for it for years. And it was one of those things where eventually I just went, F it, I guess I'll write it myself. I've done a lot of episodes of Triangle X Squared Circle here on YouTube, and I've covered a lot of games. You might be wondering, will there be games I've already covered on YouTube in the book? Yes, there will be. Now, am I just copying and pasting the script? Absolutely not. Number one, that wouldn't work. The way that I write for videos would not translate to a book. And number two, how cheap and garbage would that be? That's trash. No, these are all completely rewritten and updated deep dives on the games you love and sometimes hated. It's also totally valid to wonder if there are games that have not gotten episodes yet here on the YouTube series that will be featured in the book, and yes, there will be. AEW Fight Forever, Retromania Wrestling, Def Jam Icon, and more are covered in the book. Those are 616 Entertainment world premieres. How about it? Now, although I am the author of this book, I'm not working on this project alone. I am partnering with the one and only Sandeep Rai, author of Vita Means Life and It Only Did Everything, which those are back here on my set constantly. Fantastic books you should check out. And both of these books were designed by the one and only Jason Madison, who, wouldn't you know it, is designing Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling video game compendium. Look how gorgeous these pages are. Do you think I did this? Hell no. That's all Jason. And I'm not the only one writing for the book. You can look forward to contributions from the best stop-motion animator in the biz. I'm talking about Captain McKay. And Mr. Jay Hunter, founder and creator of OSW Review. You kidding me? You might also wonder if there's some really cool interviews in this book with developers, and to that I will say yes. Look, I sat down with Mike Herman, creator of Retromania Wrestling, and I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but if you've ever wondered what the hell happened with Retromania Wrestling calling itself the official sequel to WWF WrestleFest, and then real quick that whole thing kind of disappeared and all of that was forgotten about very quickly, Mike gave me the full exclusive scoop, and you can read about it in the book. Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling video game compendium, is a Kickstarter project, and it will not exist without your support. You guys know how Kickstarter works, right? There is a goal that you have to hit for funding. If you don't hit that goal, everybody gets their money back. There's no risk involved. But here's the deal. I am hoping that there are enough of you out there who were like me, who love wrestling, you love wrestling video games, you love video game books, and you were going, man, I wish there was a wrestling video game book. Here it is, and with your support, we can bring this thing to life. Now, there's a digital version of the book, there's a physical version of the book, there's an autographed art print version of the book, which I think is a little silly because I'm not famous, but a couple people told me that I should do that, so here it is. There is a stretch goal for an audiobook version, so if you prefer to get the book in more of like a podcast form, hey, that's an option too. It has honestly been a lifelong goal of mine to write my own book, and this is it. I have written the book, and with your support, this book is going to go out to the masses. Or if we don't hit funding, then I will at least know that I wrote the book. No one will ever see it, but I guess I still wrote it. You know? God, that would suck though. The Kickstarter link is in the description. It is most likely the pinned comment on this video. Click whichever version you want. I think this video is going up before the Kickstarter is actually live, so you can click that link and there's like a notify button. That way you will get an email when the Kickstarter goes live, which is 6/16/2025. How's that for a big celebration, huh? So what you're about to see now is the full 4th season all smashed together of the video version of Triangle X Squared Circle. And this was a nice little commercial beforehand. How do you like that? You might have questions, and if you do, please leave them in the comments. I will respond to as many of them as I can. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your interest in the book. Thank you for your interest in the show, and thank you for the interest in the channel. I really, truly appreciate you. I love you. Now enjoy Season 4 of Triangle X Squared Circle. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts, and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. From 1996 to 2007, nearly my every thought revolved around pro wrestling. What is Sting gonna do against the NWO tonight? Is Kidman gonna do the shooting star? Man, Bret Hart tricking Goldberg with that steel plate was awesome. I hope Jeff Hardy hits the Swanton tonight. Wow, Undertaker got Kane's mask off, but I can't see his face. Stacy Keibler... But it wasn't just the TV shows that had my attention. I was way into the action figures. The video games, as you know if you frequent this channel, were a constant. But in 2007, heading into 2008, the tide was beginning to turn. My interest in professional wrestling wasn't only fading, it was hanging on by a thread. WCW and ECW were long gone. Even my beloved TNA by late 2007 was looking at its prime in the rearview mirror. The overall wrestling product was changing. The feel of the shows was changing, and I was headed in another direction. I now had a PlayStation 3. I was so excited to get this thing, and WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 was the first wrestling game to hit the console. With better graphics, an updated roster, and ECW now crashing the party, this could be it. Even if the wrestling on TV was falling out of favor with me, this new game might be exactly what I needed to stay on course with my favorite hobby. Today on Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series, I'm diving deep into WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, featuring ECW. The previous entry in the series, that being SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, had already jumped into this new generation, but only for the green brand. Xbox 360 owners had a brand new, gorgeous, high-definition WWE game a year ago, and holy hell did they need one. Check out the history of WWE on Xbox for full context on that. But now, it was our time. Our time down here. Down here, it was our time. SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, with ECW in tow, smashed its way onto the PlayStation 3 with a bevy of new features. The resurrected corpse of Extreme Championship Wrestling wasn't playing out how we'd hoped it would on television, with zombies and vampires and fat naked guys jerking off an alcoholic's kendo stick while he spat beer out in unison with the stroke. Stop! Stop. See what I mean? It's hard for me to even talk about this era without flashing back to how much I hated it. But forget the show. We're talking about the game. In the video game, ECW is here, and we've got the brand new stage and set. The silver ropes and the red logo on the apron. Visually, it's on point. And that's before we dive into the brand new Extreme Rules match type, which allows us to choose which weapons we're grabbing from under the ring. We've been smashing tables for almost 10 years at this point, right? How do we up the ante? How about lighting the goddamn thing on fire? This was big time.
Oh man, that's the one you're gonna feel tomorrow.
Light the barbed wire 2x4 on fire too, why not? ECW stars of the past like Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, and the Sandman stood alongside the new generation of Marcus Corvon, aka Alpha Male Monty Brown for us TNA fans, Elijah Burke, and the debuting CM Punk. This was cool as hell, probably my favorite part of the entire package. But this is only one arena and one match type. My excitement didn't last very long, and if you're seeing this gameplay, maybe you can tell why that is. Oh my god, is SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 slow. So fucking slow. I didn't mess with the speed of this clip. I'm not purposely trying to make the game look bad. This is just how it looks. And if you think it looks slow, playing it is a whole nother story. Every wrestler feels like they weigh 650 pounds. Even running plays out at a snail's pace. Almost literally. Look, this is a shoot snail. He's in my living room right now. He moves about as fast as the characters in the game do. The speed being slowed to a crawl here is, in my opinion, where the beginning of WWE video games taking on a simulation style truly started. Match this slower pace with the addition of fighting styles, and we've got the driving forces behind SVR 08. Fighting styles introduce brand new archetypes, with each member of the roster being smashed into a specific shape. Jeff Hardy, obviously, would be put into the high flyer fighting style. This means Jeff Hardy can do springboard moves like the Lion Salt and the twisting springboard tornado DDT at a moment's notice. You know, moves Jeff Hardy has never done in his entire career. The fighting styles eliminate certain moves from being possible for certain wrestlers. This system was pitched to fans as being the next evolution. It promised to afford players experiences unlike anything they'd engaged with prior, and in some ways, this was accurate, just not in the right ways. I'm not going to wait until the end of the video to say this. Fighting styles were almost universally hated by fans of the series, and they would never return to the franchise. I can see what Ukes were going for here, but taking freedom away from the player, forcing square pegs into round holes, and really pissing on the player's head and telling them that it was merely rain, yeah, there's no wonder this feature was killed off immediately. The inclusion of restrictive fighting styles isn't the only head-scratcher here, though. I've got a full list of things that have had me wondering what they were thinking since this game released. We'll get into them now, kind of get them out of the way so that I can eventually move into a more positive direction. So if you don't enjoy fair criticism and you only want me to pretend that every game is the best thing ever made, you either want to fast forward or just go to another channel. Capiche? Good. What the fuck is going on with the belts? How in the asshole did this game ship with championship belts that are the size of a fucking cookie? This is embarrassing, man. Embarrassing. It should look like this, right? Not like this. Jesus Christ. This game is dark. Not content-wise, no. I'm talking about the lighting. I'm not sure what the art direction was thinking here, but this is not what WWE television looked like at all. Why did they take the clock away from the lower right-hand corner? I loved looking down at that thing and realizing that the match that I was having had passed the 10-minute, the 12-minute, the 15-minute mark, you know? Hell in a Cell practically doesn't even exist. I understand playing with transparency to keep the player's view from being overly obstructed. But we've seen games both past and present that improve visibility while inside the ring, then solidify the visual once it's no longer an obstruction. Here in SVR 08, the cell looks like a distant memory throughout the entire contest. Weird decision.
Man, this one's turned into a fight.
And the decision wasn't even consistent. The steel cage uses no variable transparency at all. This thing is solid, and if you can't see, tough shit. I find this game to be both incredibly easy and frustrating at the same time. I have never lost a match in SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. I'm not kidding. And yes, the difficulty is cranked up.
Right, JR. You're not going to see this kind of action on SmackDown.
The frustration comes into play with the grappling. Strong grapple moves land maybe 1 in every 9 or 10 attempts. The canned, overlong reversal animations loop in what feels like an endless cycle, leading you to almost ignore strong grapples entirely. Ultimate control maneuvers have eliminated more than a dozen grapple move slots anyway, meaning each wrestler's moveset has been cut in half from the previous game. Even if you could land the moves, there's not much to do. And with all that, I'll put a bow on my complaining for now. Let's shift our focus to 24/7 mode. Season mode and general manager mode are now both boiled down into 24/7 mode, meaning you have to choose how you want to play. Do you want to experience the storylines yourself, or do you want to write and book the shows? Unfortunately, yeah, you have to choose. Let's say you're hours deep into a season mode style playthrough with Jeff Hardy, like I was, and then you decide that you want to step into the shoes of Tommy Dreamer and take control of booking the ECW brand. Sure thing. Just delete your Jeff Hardy playthrough. You cannot, under any circumstances, have both running at the same time. What a total fuck up. What was the point of smashing these two completely separate modes into the same folder? For what? It's almost like they wanted to intentionally inconvenience the player. Anyway, let's look at the different versions of 24/7 mode. Playing as a GM is the same as it was in the previous game. Draft your roster, put rivalries together, and book your shows in an attempt to outperform the other brands. I find it funny that when playing as ECW, you cannot book an Extreme Rules match on TV. Why? Who knows? A ridiculous oversight. What's really crazy is that this was the last time GM mode would be featured in a WWE video game for 15 years. Wow. The season mode arm of 24/7 mode is pretty damn interesting. I decided to play as Jeff Hardy, and immediately I was thrust into a storyline involving John Cena, Edge, and Johnny Nitro. We are all battling to determine who will come out on top as the #1 contender. Who is the WWE champion? No idea. They're never mentioned throughout the entire angle. In the big finale of this storyline, I beat John Cena on pay-per-view. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler made a massive deal about me being next in line for the title. They're dropping confetti from the ceiling. Damn, I'm really the next big thing, huh? Let's get that title shot. I show up to work the next week and there's no mention of me getting a shot at the WWE Championship. Instead, there's an email from the coach telling me that I can be considered a contender. Alright. I was then thrown into a storyline with some of the exact same characters. This time the goal being the starring role of a new WWE Films movie.
It's bigger than both of us, baby. This crazy world just wasn't made for the likes of us. What's so funny? Nobody can work with crap like this. Let's see you try.
This isn't about you, and it isn't about me. This is bigger than both of us, baby.
You want to settle this, actor to actor?
I was consistently running into this issue where I would win a match, and then the cutscene after would be acting as if I lost. I would go check my win-loss record and no, it's perfect. So it doesn't really seem to matter what we do as the player. The story's gonna play out however the game wants it to. I don't know. I do know that it was very odd to have John Cena playing a straight-up heel in 24/7 mode. Cena turning heel was the hottest conversation at the time. It was for years, and we never saw it on TV. But here in the game, look no further. He's a total big-leaguing dickhead. Here, listen to him.
I never got to thank you for that save, but it's all good. You not being able to take care of your business let me take out 2 contenders, and that ain't a bad day's work. So thanks, kid. And you're welcome. Listen up, kid. I've been the face of Raw for a long time now.
I've always respected this man as a competitor, and I can't believe he's actually bringing back up to the ring for a match of this caliber.
He's protecting the brand. He doesn't want to see that loser named the #1 contender on a fluke.
Yeah, I didn't mention that yet. The characters in 24/7 mode are indeed fully voiced, and the performances are pretty damn good, I must say.
Tells me you got some trouble that the old hot rod can help you out with. Well, I used to chew bubble gum and kick ass, but I give up chewing bubble gum. So now I can kick twice as much ass.
And the two of you are going to get the chance to do just that in a match against the tag team champion.
Title?
Non-title.
Good enough. Come on, kid.
It's a little strange walking around backstage and seeing people doing sit-ups and exercising on the ice-cold cement floor of a dirty-ass hallway rather than in a locker room or a gym, but hey, what can you do? I'll tell you what you can do. You can go through and engage in skill exercises to level up, which is completely unnecessary, or participate in different activities like starring in a movie to earn some cash. I thought this image of Jeff Hardy with a gun was really insane. WWE would never let that happen, but then I remembered this. So, never mind.
Show me your badge. Hang on.
The cash we earn. What is the cash for? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it'll get us out of this 24/7 mode portion of the video. Cash is for the unlockables. Head over to the WWE shop and flip through. The Rock, Stone Cold, Bret Hart, Sabu, and many more wrestlers are available for purchase. To even earn the right to buy them, though, sometimes you've got to jump through the hoops of Hall of Fame mode. What is Hall of Fame mode? Excellent question. This is Hall of Fame mode. It's a list of challenges. Completing a challenge fills your meter and allows you to unlock certain characters if you can pony up the cash. What is the cash for? Well, I'm glad you asked. Wait, I'm going in circles now. A fair amount of this video has been negative, and that, it is what it is. I'll share with you my overall perception of this game when we start to wind down. But before then, let's talk about some of the cool things going on here. SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 isn't a piece of shit. I've been critical. All fair critiques, in my opinion, but I'm not saying this is trash. I really appreciate that the addition of the ECW brand came with a third announce team.
I was around back then too. I don't have as much nostalgia for steel chairs to the skull.
Yeah, that's it. Do it again.
I know physical punishment is part of the game, but I can't believe you're enjoying this so much. The table's been broken in half, and so has his opponent.
Hearing Joey Styles doing commentary in a WWE branded video game, I like it. I just like Joey Styles, what can I say? I always pop for special entrances. Umaga carrying the belt in his hand, awesome. Johnny Nitro swinging the belt in front of his schwanz is hilarious. Worth noting that by the time this game hit store shelves, Johnny Nitro had been repackaged as John Morrison, but it happened far too late to update in the game, apparently. This was the age of patches. Changing his name would have been simple, but whatever. Holding R2 during your entrances allows you to go into a first-person view. That's fucking weird. Look at these new additions to the roster. First appearances. I've already mentioned CM Punk, Sandman, Sabu, and Marcus Corvan, but check out Ashley Massaro, Kelly Kelly, Kenny Dykstra, Michelle McCool, JTG, Shad Gaspard. Even Terry Funk himself makes his first WWE video game appearance right here. SmackDown vs. Raw 2008's roster isn't the best of the best, but it's certainly no slouch. And that's impressive, seeing as though we've lost Kurt Angle to TNA, Chris Jericho to his little band, Chris Benoit to Trish Stratus and Lita to retirement. Come on now. Plus, Jeff Hardy's back for the first time since SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. you know that's a big deal to me. The submission system has a locking mini game that's kind of, it's nothing special. It barely works. And when you hit a finisher, it sounds like a gun spitting a loogie.
Look out! He's setting up his opponent. There it is! The RKO!
It's his kick in the gut. Here it comes. Stunner! Stunner!
I don't know what the hell was going on there, but you know what? How many times have I said that in this video? I don't know what that was supposed to be, or I don't know what was going on there, but that's kind of the story of this game, in a way. A handful of just odd decisions. Many decisions were made in this era. Maybe it's time I tell you about my decision. I stated at the top of this video that around this time, mid to late 2007, my love for professional wrestling was on life support. And that's true. It was. I won't bore you to death with detail after detail. I'll just answer the question I posed in the beginning. That question being whether or not this game could turn it all around for me. The answer was no. It didn't take a couple weeks for me to realize that the magic was gone. I knew within a few hours of buying SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 that I didn't like this game very much. The slowness, the restrictive, and frankly unbalanced fighting styles, it was all just not what I was looking for. And so I was out. I was done. Not only did I stop watching wrestling entirely, across the board, no wrestling, I was checked out completely, I stopped buying the video games too. It wasn't until the pipe bomb in 2011 that I even had a passing interest in checking things out again. And it wasn't until the release of WWE 12 that I would buy another WWE video game. That's a bridge we'll cross eventually, but yeah, at the time, this was it. I was out. After 11 years of every waking moment revolving around wrestling, I was done. But I'm only one person. This is an overall retrospective, not just my personal recollection. WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008's review scores were alright. I don't think many were as unimpressed as I was, but it is a fact that this game was received worse than usual. In the sales department, it was another hit. Over 6 million copies sold across all platforms. Do you see what I mean? I'm only one person. Do I hate this game? Absolutely not. Is it as bad as I remember it being from those 15 years ago when I first played it? Also no. After spending some considerable time with it for the first time in 15 years, and honestly just adapting to how fucking slow it is and how unresponsive the controls are at times, there certainly is fun to be had here. If you asked me, do I recommend SVR 08? No, not really. There are better wrestling titles that came before and after this one. But I just want to be clear in saying, no, this isn't a terrible game at all. WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 falls somewhere in the lower middle part of the pack, in my opinion. It was kind of crazy coming back to this game 15 years after I initially swore it off. Kind of cathartic, in a way. How many video games could possibly release with the exact same name? Look, WWF SmackDown released on the PlayStation in 2000. Do you know how many games use that exact title? Just this one. SmackDown is protected. SmackDown has always been protected, because the series has always been high quality. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So that's SmackDown. Today, it's the A show. It draws the highest television ratings, it's on the biggest network, it's available in the most homes. Roman Reigns was the man for the better part of a decade. Where was he? Predominantly on SmackDown. SmackDown is protected. But what about Raw? The original flagship program for the WWF, or WWE. The original A show. We're still looking at great TV ratings. Huge stars will still walk the hallowed grounds of the red brand. It's not like Raw has fallen off a cliff. It's still massive on television, still big in the real world. But we don't talk about the real world on this show, do we? No. This series is about video games. In the digital realm, Raw hasn't been so lucky. On the last season of this show, I went as deep as you can go on WWF Raw on the Xbox. I doubled down, hitting WWE Raw 2 as well. But these weren't the first games to carry this mantle. These Xbox and PC offerings were the second coming of the Raw name to the video game landscape. Today, in 2024, we're rewinding time back 30 years to shine a light on the first dance. So grab your Super Nintendo controller, or Sega Genesis if you prefer, get a little something to sip on and sit back. It's time to take a look at WWF Raw. Welcome to Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series. It's worth noting right here at the top that WWF Raw, sometimes called Raw is War, is indeed the final entry in the LJN acclaimed 16-bit WWF video game trilogy. That's a mouthful. I did an episode of this show on 1993's WWF Royal Rumble back in 2020. But the original LJN acclaimed WWF game, Super WrestleMania, I haven't done that one yet. Look, I didn't always have these plans to cover a series and then eventually re-release the linked episodes as separate movies, okay? We will look at Super WrestleMania another time. Don't worry. Today we look at the end of the trilogy. 1994 was a weird time for the World Wrestling Federation, with the world title being traded amongst Yokozuna, Bret Hart, Bob Backlund, and Diesel. Backlund held the belt for just 3 days before dropping it to Diesel at an untelevised house show in a match that lasted just 8 seconds. The Undertaker headlined SummerSlam against The Undertaker. The match was terrible. Aldo Montoya existed. Hakushi looked really cool, but never amounted to much. Duke the Dumpster Droese was literally a garbage man who wrestled. Like I said, shit was weird. Business wasn't great. WCW was growing in popularity. They had just signed the biggest name in WWF history, Hulk Hogan. Times were changing. So how did this all shake out on the video game front? We're coming off WWF Royal Rumble in 1993, right? A fun but limited wrestling game released on the same set of consoles. Despite the infamous and exhilarating steel cage match appearing in video games as early as 1992 on both the Game Boy and NES, the 16-bit Royal Rumble had no cage to speak of. Obviously, this follow-up, this third and final entry in the trilogy would correct that, right? We've got a cage here, don't we? No, we don't. The Sega CD has one. Their entire game is based around it. But no, still no cage here. That sucks. Why am I talking about this first? Because I'm annoyed by it. I don't feel like there's any real excuse to not have it, so yeah, I feel as though my annoyance is justified. So now I'm opening with something we don't have. Beautiful. Let's shift gears. What do we have? Let's focus on what is here. Look, the gameplay is mostly the same from Royal Rumble. Lockups, insane button mashing to fill the meter. Whoever fills it first can hit a move of their choice. What a maneuver! There aren't many differences between Royal Rumble and Raw. But every single wrestler no longer sharing the exact same moveset? Hey, I'll take that. Some guys can spike you with a DDT, others can nail a vertical suplex tombstone thing. What the hell is this? It's almost a Steiner screwdriver, but we're dropping to our knees rather than assing out. This move is awesome. But you know what's really awesome?
The Mega Moves.
No, not finishing moves.
Mega Moves.
Have you ever wanted to spin horizontally like a helicopter before smashing your opponent? Go for it. Yokozuna's big ass jumps sky high and strikes the ground with the impact of a meteor, leveling everyone in sight. Bret Hart hits what is most likely the first ever 630 splash in professional wrestling history. Doink kicks you in the asshole so hard you fly up and over the top rope. These are incredible. I've seen Doink dismember people and stitch them back together into a Frankensteinian abomination over on GM Showdown. But this is out of control. These mega moves, are kind of like the precursor to what would eventually become WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. When it comes to the roster, your enjoyment will most likely depend on which era of wrestling you prefer. We've gained the brand new faces of 1-2-3 Kid, Bam Bam Bigelow, Diesel, who was sorely missing from Royal Rumble, Owen Hart, Doink the Clown, and even Luna Vachon, whose inclusion allows for the first ever intergender matches in WWF video game history. That's a nice little tidbit for you. Those are our new faces. Impressive. Very nice. But these additions came at a price. Hulk Hogan is gone. Ric Flair is gone. Papa Shango, The Model, Jim Duggan, IRS, Crush, Randy Savage. They're all out of here. I told you. Your appreciation of the roster is probably going to be based largely on your generational preference. Interestingly enough, Crush and the Macho Man are playable, but only on the Game Gear version of Raw. How strange is that? If you want to get real nuts, like Michael Keaton swinging a fire poker, even Quang was playable with a cheat code on the 32X port of the game. Quang. I mentioned some goofy-ass 1994 gimmicks earlier. Quang didn't make the cut. But yeah, Quang was a thing. If you're noticing a ton of repetition in the arena, that's because this is the only ring and arena in the game. The red ring apron is on brand with Raw is War. I get a kick out of Jerry Lawler and Vince McMahon calling the action at ringside, even though we can't hear them. But answer this question for me. What the hell is the Scratch logo doing here in 1994? Look at that. That's the WWF Scratch logo from the Attitude Era. An insignia that wouldn't make its real-life debut until 1997. How can this be? Did Acclaim and LJN travel forward in time, visit the future, they took a look at that new logo, came back to the past and they planted an Easter egg to be discovered years and years later? No, come on. This is a classic block logo. It's just crudely tilted and skewed even further by the graphical limitations of the era. If you're doubting this explanation based on the fact that even the colors are accurate, you can let that go because they're not consistent. Look at the turnbuckle pads. These are also block logos. They're just warped in the exact same way. Hell of a coincidence though, right? Our standard one-on-one and tag team matches are now bolstered by Bedlam showdowns, which are full-on tornado tag team action, elimination style, with the brawl style finish. What does that mean? Well, the brawl match type carried over from Royal Rumble. No rules. Go ahead, choke, eye rake, no countouts, no disqualifications. God damn, I love the chair shots. And hey, we got a bucket now, too. Look, I've gone back and forth on likes and dislikes, positives and negatives, and there's still more to say. I love the jackknife powerbomb in this game. Bret and Owen's sharpshooter now actually ending a match via submission is an improvement. What is with the constant barrage of air horns and whistles going off in the audience during this game? This is either the best or worst part of WWF Raw, depending on what kind of mood you're in. It's ridiculous. The back body drop is gorgeous, and hitting it up and over the top rope is one of those retro video game things that I could just look at all day. Oh, that's so much fun. But really, we don't have to baby this game or its developer. WWF Raw, like Royal Rumble, is still quite bland. The characters, even with the varied movesets, are devoid of an identity. Before you type up, "It was 1994, dude, relax," I hear you. I get it, that's fine. And it's no excuse. Look at Saturday Night Slam Masters, a Capcom-developed wrestling game, with its insanely identifiable wrestlers. Look at all of these different arenas we can fight in. Look at the crazy moves, the big sprites, the lively crowd. Slam Masters has barbed wire and landmines, dude. This game came out the year before Raw. So yeah, it's 1994. The technology then wasn't what it is today. I get it. But it's no excuse. It was beyond time for the video games of the World Wrestling Federation to evolve. And evolve they would. WWF Raw would be followed up by WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. A brand new, crazier, sillier approach to the World Wrestling Federation. This time developed by Midway, the over-the-top nature of Saturday Night Slam Masters was here in full effect. I've already covered this game on this show, back in Season 2. That was in 2021. Feel free to check it out. It's a good episode. WWF Raw, though, it's not great. I wouldn't even say it's good. It exists, but even for its time, it felt painfully old. Raw reviewed poorly and didn't sell particularly well either. And how could it? This half-baked, content-light sequel was a full-price release. And no, that price is not a misprint. People forget how expensive video games used to be. This was 1994. That $72.99 is equal to about $151 in today's money. Yeah, keep that in mind the next time you're looking at a $40 game on sale on the PlayStation Network and thinking, I'll wait until it's $30. Royal Rumble got its name from the legendary match type it was based on. I think Raw is similar in the sense that this game got its name from just being undercooked. Thank you for watching another episode of Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series. Honestly, I had a little bit of a hard time writing this episode, as there's really just not that much to say about WWF Raw. We've seen this before, right? So next time, I've got a game where there's plenty to talk about. A game that plays host to some of my most insane personal stories and memories. Prepare yourself for Fire Pro returns. If you grew up around the time that I did, your wrestling game collection was probably awesome. SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, WWF No Mercy. Come on, we all had WCW Nitro or Thunder in there too. They couldn't all be gold. But the backstage assaults and the hardcore revolutions were easily washed away by the Here Comes the Pains and the WrestleMania 19s. Man, we really had it made, didn't we? Everybody knows about these games. Everybody knows the Kings of the Ring, right? Well, not everybody. There was one game, hidden in the shadows like Sting up in the rafters, that was right there with the absolute greats. It was so hard to explain to your friends that, in some ways, this wasn't as good as this. On today's episode of Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series, we're diving deep into Fire Pro Returns. Before we get too deep into Fire Pro Returns, it's probably important to take a look at the Fire Pro Wrestling series in general. The franchise dates all the way back to the 80s, with Fire Pro Wrestling Combination Tag originally releasing on the PC Engine. If you're already like, whoa, I've never heard of or barely heard of Fire Pro, and it's been around for 35 years? Yes. To be fair though, it wasn't until 2001 that we got one of these games released in North America. Overseas, there was Super Fire Pro Wrestling on the Super Famicom in 1991, and tons of other sequels to come after, but yeah, the game simply titled Fire Pro Wrestling for the Game Boy Advance was the first in the series to get a US release. Did I own it? Nope! I had never even heard of it until years later. The developer behind these games was Human Entertainment, who, outside of Fire Pro, developed many titles, one of which was Stadium Events on the NES. You know Stadium Events, right? One of the rarest and most valuable video games of all time? Yeah, that Stadium Events. In 1997, Clock Tower would hit the United States. This series was indeed developed by Human Entertainment. So maybe you're not a Fire Pro fan, but if you're into the retro game scene or survival horror, you're probably aware of Fire Pro's original developer, at the very least. Human Entertainment would unfortunately file for bankruptcy in 2000, with a new developer, Spike, being one of the many teams to rise from those ashes. In 2012, Spike would merge with Chunsoft, forming Spike Chunsoft, who are still in business, releasing highly acclaimed games to this day. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, the spiritual successor to the Budokai Tenkaichi series, is scheduled for release later this year. That's a quick history of the series, and by quick I mean a super fast, totally not comprehensive overview in any way. Look, there are like 20 of these fucking games, and that is not an exaggeration in the slightest. This is what Fire Pro Wrestling Returns looks like when you first boot it up. We've got generic rings based on very well-known, real-life organizations. View Japan is obviously our stand-in for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Olive Japan takes the place of All Japan Pro Wrestling. Neo 1 represents 01. Switch gears into mixed martial arts and, wouldn't you know it, the Blade Ring looks a hell of a lot like the Pride Ring, doesn't it? But maybe you like your MMA in a cage. What does this remind you of? As far as the wrestlers are concerned, it's the same deal. Western wrestling fans will instantly notice that Raven Gush looks a lot like Kevin Nash. Crazy Rose is a dead ringer for Scott Hall, huh? Anything you've ever wanted to put together in the world of professional wrestling or mixed martial arts, there's a damn good chance Fire Pro Returns will allow you to pull it off. And let's make this distinction and adjustment right now. Nobody calls it Fire Pro Wrestling Returns, okay? It's Fire Pro Returns. That's what we used to call it on the message boards, and that's what I'm gonna call it from here on out. You OG fans have probably been like, he's not a real fan, he's not even using the right name. I know, but I have to present this for everyone, not just the hardcore, alright? And I hear you out there, those of you going, this is it? This is the game you're putting up there with the best of the best? This is hard to get across here in 2024, but for its time, in 2005, Fire Pro Returns was the ultimate in customization. The ultimate. And it wasn't even close. So I've shown you what the game looks like when you first pop it into your PlayStation 2, but that's not how anybody really played the game. Customization was king. This is how we played Fire Pro Returns. Again, I realize it's 2024 now. The WWE 2K games have community creations. You can import entire shows and arenas and whatnot into your game. But in 2005, this was incredible. To have WCW, ECW, WWE, TNA, ROH, New Japan, UFC, Pride, modern, and retro wrestlers and fighters all in one package, this was out of control. Not just the wrestlers, but the logos. Seeing WCW branding in a non-WCW game, this wasn't going on anywhere else. And if you're questioning how so many wrestlers can be in one game, Fire Pro Returns features over 300 Create-A-Wrestler slots. Anybody you can think of, you can get them in the game with the ability to sort them however you like. Going pixel by pixel to craft something like the 2000 Nitro logo for your ring. Goodness gracious, the freedom, Dan-Dans. Want to create your own championship belts? Go for it. Several of these designs look fairly familiar, don't they? Gotta love it. Now, to be clear, I didn't create literally anything you're looking at. And this was fairly common. What you do was go online, find a pre-packaged save file, download it, drop it onto a USB thumb drive, and you know what? We'll finish this part later. The gameplay itself is timing based. We're not using circle and the D-pad to initiate a grapple like you would in the SmackDown series. Here in Fire Pro, you simply walk into your opponent. When the distance is closed, the grapple initiates itself. Executing a maneuver is timing based. The second the lockup connects, you want to press your buttons. Not a moment before, not a moment after. One of the absolute greatest elements of the Fire Pro package is the realistic wrestling matches. Building a properly paced match is an art form in the real world, and it's a guideline you have to follow in the game. The square button houses your startup moves. Your next level maneuvers are tied to X, with the power moves connected to circle. If you get in the ring and go for a power move immediately, you will be reversed, so be wary of getting overly excited. Now might be the time to address the graphics. I know some of you are not listening to a word I'm saying because of the way the game looks. Some of you cannot get beyond the fact that the game is 2D. Hear me out. Give it a chance. No, this doesn't look anything like the games we have today. It doesn't even look like the other wrestling games of its era. Fire Pro Returns hit store shelves in Japan in 2005. This was the era of SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, Day of Reckoning 2. I get it. That's okay. Graphics aren't everything. Gameplay is king. It always has been, and it always will be, and Fire Pro Returns has the fucking gameplay, alright? The parameters regarding the logic of each character are fully customizable, and if you find a good creator out there who really knows what they're doing, you're gonna wind up with an Undertaker who wrestles exactly the way he does in real life. And that goes for everybody. From Hulk Hogan to the Hardy Boys to Sabu. Yes, that's a barbed wire ring. Hold on. I'm still talking about the graphics. The gameplay is presented in 2D at an isometric angle. This might look disorienting at first, but I assure you, it's not. Walk around this ring for 10 seconds and it's all you need to settle in. The fans in the crowd are 3D, which is a strange choice, but it doesn't matter. The entrances. Holy hell, look at these stages. Again, is it a little jarring to see these 2D sprites walking out onto a pre-rendered 3D stage? Sure, a little bit, but this is part of the charm, I guess. The variety of the stages is nice, as are the arenas we wrestle in. Anything from a high school gym to a medium-sized sportsplex, all the way to a stadium-sized setting, it's all here. ECW never ran the Houston Astrodome, right? They played bingo halls into generally smaller houses. If you want to keep that feel alive, go for it. Not every arena allows for entrances, only a few of them do, as a matter of fact, and that sucks. I would have appreciated walking underneath the basketball hoop in the school gym, you know? One last thing graphically, and this plays into a special game mode as well. Matchmaker is Fire Pro's version of GM mode, in a way. Take control of the company of your choice, schedule an event at whichever building you desire, and book your card. The cutscenes here are hand-drawn, and they're really cool. Some of them are kind of creepy, too, which I don't think Spike Chunsoft did on purpose, but it is what it is. Now, we had a little peek at that barbed wire ring earlier. Let me go ahead and shine a light on several of the match types. Exploding barbed wire death matches. Holy fucking shit. I had never seen anything like this in a wrestling game before. Those black boxes on the outside of the ring house devastating explosives. And when the designated time limit is reached, a landmine massacre match is also on the docket. Again, light tubes attached to wooden boards in the corners. Light tubes the wrestlers can remove and swing as individual weapons. Get the fuck out of here. Get tossed over the top rope and you do not want to fall out of this ring, trust me. Steel cage matches are large and in charge as well. I've already touched on the MMA fights, which can be contested inside of the UFC style cage or in a ring. We have kickboxing rules as well, full-on battle royals. We can run tournaments. Man, Fire Pro Returns had it all. And by had it all, I mean Fire Pro Returns had the match types that I just mentioned. Look, I love table matches. We don't have tables here. I'm a big ladder match guy. We don't have ladders here. This was a Japanese wrestling game made by a Japanese developer for a Japanese audience. So Hell in a Cell, Elimination Chamber, none of those WWE owned and copyrighted match types are here. Not even in a generic sense. It would be nice to have them, but we don't. Here's an interesting aspect of Fire Pro Returns, and this is actually what drew me to the game in the first place. Look, playing the game is fantastic, obviously, but simulating is where it was really at. Booking the match of your dreams and sitting back to see how it plays out, I cannot begin to express how much time I spent doing this. You may have noticed how many matches have CP versus CP listed at the bottom. That's there because I have simulated a good deal of the gameplay you've seen here today. The logic system and offensive and defensive parameters I mentioned earlier make for unbelievable simulations. This was something you just couldn't get anywhere else. Throw The Rock versus Undertaker into a SmackDown game at the time, it wasn't gonna be like this. I actually find the built-in matchmaker mode to be uninteresting due to the constraints and limitations included. We didn't need matchmaker mode. The real matchmaker mode was just using your imagination. Look, I'm gonna get crazy here. What you're looking at is a very real piece of history. This notebook dates all the way back to 2006. These are actual matches I was running nearly 20 years ago. And not only was I simulating these matches, I had an entire rubric complete with point values for each and every possible outcome. At the end of an in-game month, I would add up all of the results and produce a pound-for-pound rankings list. Win-loss records were tracked, number one contenders were often determined in battle royals. I was insane with this shit. If you frequent this channel, you might be coming to the same exact conclusion I did while writing this script. This notebook with these match results and these championship rankings and the rules and regulations, this is basically GM Showdown, nearly 20 years before that show existed. And if you're new here, GM Showdown is a weekly series that has run for 28 episodes across 2 seasons on this channel, where I ran a promotion called 616 Shockwave, and my buddy No Taxes Nigel Bravo ran Stokro Combustion. Points were awarded for matches, win-loss records were tracked, we had our own champions, all of it. The matches are all simulated, with no actual playing of the game taking place. Granted, we did use the 2017 game Fire Pro Wrestling World for GM Showdown, but yeah, the seeds of GM Showdown's existence began with Fire Pro Returns, in my bedroom, in 2006. I didn't even know Nigel then. This YouTube channel didn't even exist yet. But this, right here, this is history. Wow. The connections run even deeper, actually. The promotion I created in my Fire Pro Returns headcanon was called Sweet Pandemonium Wrestling, or SPW for short. I took some of my favorite wrestlers and put them on my roster and used them in the positions that I thought they should have in real life. Gregory Helms versus CM Punk for the SPW Championship? Hell yeah, man. Sweet Pandemonium Wrestling was awesome. Now fast forward to January 3rd, 2024. The third pay-per-view event of GM Showdown Season 2. What was that called? Sweet Pandemonium.
Sweet Pandemonium.
Next week it's our third pay-per-view, Sweet Pandemonium. What you're looking at now, this is yet another piece of history. Have you ever seen a PS2 that does this? This is a flip top. I bought these pieces on eBay and modded my PlayStation 2. Poorly. I kind of fucked it up actually, but it did work. Why did I do this to my PS2? Well, I wanted to play Fire Pro Returns, a game which was only released in Japan. Modifying my PS2 allowed me to swap the disc using Swap Magic, which is this right here, and this allowed the laser to not be interrupted, and it would trick the console into reading a Japanese disc. I don't know. Using an Action Replay Max allowed me to take the save that I had downloaded from the internet and put it directly onto my PlayStation 2. This version of the game was entirely Japanese, meaning I couldn't even read the menus. Downloading a 300 plus page guide and printing it out, mind you, was an absolute must. That guide is the one piece of the puzzle I no longer have in hand, but that's alright. Plus, I found it right here on the internet, so what you're looking at is the actual guide that I had printed out and shoved into a binder. But this is the least interesting part anyway. You know what's really funny? After going through all of this trouble of modifying my console, buying Swap Magic discs, printing out this gigantic guide, Fire Pro Returns would receive a North American release less than 1 year later. Hilarious. It's one of the dumbest stories of my entire gaming life, but it's true. And not only did it get a physical release, but the game would eventually be listed on the PlayStation Network for just $9.99. It's still available to this day, as a matter of fact. All of the footage you've seen today was captured from this version, directly off of PlayStation 3. So no disc, Japanese or otherwise, were necessary for today's video. Fire Pro Returns reviewed very, very well, with critics lauding its commitment to the series' roots, especially in a landscape full of beautiful 3D grapplers. Sales-wise, I have no fucking idea how it performed, but I would like to think that it sold 10 million copies. It didn't, but I'd like to think that it did. But the thing is, the memories that I hold near and dear have nothing to do with reviews. They have nothing to do with sales figures. Honestly, the game could have gotten a 2 out of 10 and sold 8 copies. It made no difference to me. This notebook, this save file, this is all I ever needed. If you've never given Fire Pro a shot, I implore you to do so. 2017's Fire Pro Wrestling World is available on PC and PlayStation. Just do not, under any circumstances, confuse it with the 2012 Fire Pro Wrestling on the Xbox 360. We don't talk about that one. Ever. I know this isn't the most popular wrestling video game franchise, I know many of you watching have never and will never be interested in giving it a chance. That's okay. All I know is that somehow, some way, someday, I hope to see Fire Pro Wrestling return again. WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 released at a time where my interest in professional wrestling wasn't just waning, it was on life support. I'd hoped that the first SVR game to hit the next generation of PlayStation consoles might revitalize my love for what was my favorite hobby for the majority of my life. Long story short, it did not get the job done. Not only that, but overall, SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 just wasn't a very good game. I did a whole episode on it earlier this season. I won't repeat all my points now. That's old news. Today we turn our sights to the sequel, a game I've never played for more than 5 minutes because, like I said before, I was out. I was done with wrestling from 2008 to 2011. This game released while I was completely out of touch. Taking a look at it today, in 2024, was it just another forgettable slog like SVR 08? Or did I miss out on a great installment in the series? Today on Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series, we dive deep into WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. So what did I miss? What did SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 bring to the table? If you consider this series to have started with WWF SmackDown in 2000, which I don't, but maybe you do, this would be the 10th game in the series. I personally separate the SmackDown and SmackDown vs. Raw series as their own franchises, but even then, this would be the 5th SmackDown vs. Raw video game. Over the years, we'd seen new match types, new wrestlers, new game modes. There was always something new to look forward to. All of those things are here in SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, and we'll get into all of that. But what was leading the charge? Which new feature stood above all the others, at least as far as the marketing was concerned? Well, how about tag team matches? I found this strange at the time, as WWE didn't really have much going on in that era as far as tag team wrestling was concerned. In the early 2000s, we had the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, the New Age Outlaws, the APA, Billy and Chuck, the Un-Americans, the Hollies, Kai and Tai, Too Cool, X Factor, TNA. At any given time, any of these teams could be tag team champions. In 2008, 2009, the tag team scene barely existed, and that's being generous. To focus your new video game on an aspect of the show that barely exists is a bizarre choice. It's like if the reveal trailer for AEW Fight Forever 2 was like, appeal to the fans on the hard cam side. Anyway, before we get into the gameplay changes, let's talk about this trailer. First of all, it's entirely pre-rendered, which we should be used to by now. SVR 07's trailer was bizarre and pre-rendered too. But who the hell made this? Did they really not know that Matt Hardy doesn't do the Twist of Fate like this? This was something Jeff did, and only a few times. Anyway, now wait, hold on. What is going on with the Swanton Bomb animation? This not only doesn't look anything like Jeff Hardy's actual move, but this animation doesn't even exist in the game. What happened here? Maybe it was thrown together really fast just to get the announcement out. Who knows? Anyway, the gameplay. How exactly does this complete rehaul of the tag team match affect our experience? Well, we've got tag team finishers now. In my head, I pictured the spot where Shawn super kicked Taker right into a pedigree. And then when I popped Triple H and Shawn's tag team finisher, they did the heart attack. It was an animation that dated all the way back to WWF SmackDown 2 from nearly 10 years prior. Okay. Undertaker and Kane's tag team finisher also dates back to the exact same game. The Hardys at least have a new animation. The game doesn't adjust who does what in order for it to fit the proper roles, but at least it's new? Look, the overhauling of the tag team match was overblown, overhyped, and there's barely a difference here. Hot tags make whoever is doing them look like an idiot. Luckily, there are much cooler things to talk about than tag team matches. Man, what a terrible way to lead the marketing of this game. Road to WrestleMania is what Yuke's and THQ should have led with. Why? Because this is pretty damn cool. Imagine a truncated version of season mode. We're talking a couple hours long, with fully voiced characters, interesting storylines, and a ton of effort into making the experience special. Look, I played through CM Punk's Road to WrestleMania, where we're chasing the ECW Championship. Listen to the personalized crowd chants and commentary.
Whoa, Hardy and Punk. This one's gonna be ridiculous, Styles.
You're right there, partner. These are two of WWE's hottest young stars, and you can be sure they're going to give it their all.
Maybe I'm alone, but little touches like this go a long way for me. The storyline has the extreme rules ECW became famous for being outright banned for the safety of the show's competitors.
CM Punk has captured the ECW Championship.
Yeah, but at what cost? Dreamer looks really hurt out there.
You people love Extreme Rules matches? Well, I'll tell you what, it takes a huge toll on us. It's the single reason I had to retire.
When a superstar is injured, it's bad for business, and my family doesn't like that. Thanks to Taz's concerns, I'm hereby abolishing extreme matches. Effective last week. That means CM Punk's win at Royal Rumble is negated. And I need him to come out right now to relinquish the ECW Championship.
What, that's it? Sorry, CM, no more title? You're too extreme for ECW?
This is good shit, man. I get a kick out of the goals being laid out on reminder notes that our character apparently wrote for themselves. Do we have a memory problem or something? Does our character also leave behind reminder notes at home for taking showers and brushing his teeth? How silly can you get? But the best in the world isn't the only superstar with his own angle. We've actually got 6 different roads to WrestleMania to explore. The Undertaker's journey is... holy shit. This has got to be one of the strangest pieces of business ever included in a WWE video game. I won't spoil the whole thing for you. You can check it out for yourself. Chris Jericho, Triple H, and John Cena have their own paths as well, but the tag team of Rey Mysterio and Batista star in the first ever multiplayer experience of this kind. Again, why the hell did they not lead with this as the main attraction of SVR 2009? Road to WrestleMania is great. I personally appreciate that these are only a couple hours apiece. Short and sweet, you move on to the next one, bing bang. They don't overstay their welcome. You know what also didn't overstay its welcome? GM mode. And by that I mean, it's gone. One of the most popular features or game modes in franchise history. It made its debut in SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, carried through 07 and 08, and it's already dead. I seem to recall THQ conveniently forgetting to tell consumers that the mode would be removed, and upon inserting the disc into your console of choice, it was like, wait, where's GM mode? Gotta love that, right? Now might be a good time to talk about everything we've lost. The Buried Alive match has been cut as well. It was never even presented correctly in the first place, and rather than put any effort into fixing it, Yuke's opted to just pull it entirely. Cool. Fighting in the crowd, which was one of the main selling points of the 2007 iteration of the franchise, has also been removed. Create a Championship has been killed. Fighting styles, one of the main selling points of SVR 08, which was... fighting styles were dog shit. They've been cut as well. Many of the abilities attached to fighting styles, such as the mounted punching or springboard attacks, they're still here, they're just not nailed down to weird, restrictive archetypes anymore. I must note, though, that there are new restrictions in place. Here in this match between CM Punk and Tommy Dreamer, you can see me attempting to stack these tables over and over again. It never worked, so I just assumed that stacking tables was another cut feature. It turns out that starting in SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, you need a specific perk to be able to stack tables, and CM Punk apparently doesn't have it. I hate this shit. These restrictions would get worse in later SmackDown vs. Raw games and WWE 2K games, but here it is, in its infancy. This is getting into the area for me, I'm just going to be honest with you guys, where I feel like this is almost not airable. Because my frustration is going to come through. Stop walking around the ring post! Just break through the fucking wall! I kind of skipped over the moment-to-moment gameplay to dive right into the new and missing features there, didn't I? Let's take a second and just put it out there. THQ and Yuke's must have really taken the criticism of SVR 08's gameplay to heart, because they've gone out of their way to make some very important changes. The slowness, the snail's pace, dull, boring movement and motion of the prior game is gone. SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 looks like it's moving faster than the prior installment, because it is. Oh my god, this is a fantastic piece of course correction. What's a little funny is that upping the speed back to its normal pace kind of makes 2009 feel like 2007, but with graphics that mirror 2008. It's a hodgepodge. It's a mishmash. This is like the last 3 SVR games were thrown into a blender on the highest setting. In some ways, that's a good thing. In other ways, it's not. More on that later. 2009 brings us the debut of signature moves. John Cena's got the FU in his back pocket, right? Jeff Hardy will look to finish you with the Swanton Bomb, you know? But the 5-knuckle shuffle, or the whisper in the wind, while not finishing maneuvers, are not just run-of-the-mill moves we should be pulling out whenever we feel like it. Earning a special and storing it for later transforms it into a signature move. I like this. And speaking of finishers and things I like, I think we should take a look at the mode that allows us to create a finisher. Is the Pedigree a fantastic move? Yes. The Go to Sleep, the 619, the Tombstone. If there was a Hall of Fame for wrestling maneuvers, these would all be first ballot choices. But ever since we were kids, we always wanted to have our own finishing move, right? Whether you experimented with your action figures or put your Bash and Brawler through the ringer, you wanted to find your own flavor. WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 is the first time we've ever been able to put our moves into practice in a video game. When I was like 10 years old, I came up with this move that was like a Death Valley driver combined with a jackhammer. Here in SVR 09, my daydreams can be realized in the digital realm. Awesome. And also, years later, I saw Keith Lee do this on NXT or something, and I was like, that's my move! I made that up! It's so funny. What's really cool, though, is creating a little something special for a pre-existing superstar. I always cooked up storylines with my action figures where guys would have to hit a brand new variation of their tried and true move in order to put down an extremely tough opponent. Can you imagine John Cena having to hit a reverse FU? That's fantastic. Imagine this. Randy Orton actually sucks. He acts like a modern day, zero psychology, bottom of the barrel wrestler. Introducing the 2024 Indie Ass RKO. 9 unnecessary steps to accomplish the same old shit. And all that only for a 2 count. What do you think? Man, creative finisher is fun. Why it took so long to give us something like this, who knows, but it's here now. It's nice to have the freedom to craft the offense that your opponent truly deserves.
That must mean she's the most relentless diva on the roster.
While we're on the topic of creation, let's put over highlight reels. What are highlight reels? I'm about to tell you. Relax. This mode allows us to save the last 30 seconds of action at any given point, which we can then import into the mode and basically edit into an awesome little spot. We have complete freedom over camera angles, when to cut, slow motion, graphics on the screen, and all sorts of things. Having never played SVR09 before, this was my first real experience with highlight reels, and I have to say, this is awesome. Had I purchased this game when it released, I probably would have logged dozens of hours in this editor, cooking up the coolest spots possible. Major shout out to Gwenoki here, a longtime Dan who created her own show called EXE. Gwen's use of highlight reels for EXE was brilliant. Seamless transitions between raw gameplay and cultivated spots. Gwen, bring back EXE for Season 2, would you? Thank you. I've been very complimentary for the last several sections of this retrospective, and I think it's time we even things out. Because I do have a good deal of complaints. I will try my best to rocket through these as to not slow things down to a crawl. So here we go. How are you going to have a King of the Ring tournament mode and there's no King of the Ring arena? Come on now. The belts still look awful. They're so small. Well, sometimes. The tag belts look perfect. The ECW belt is pretty good. Why is it that the biggest and most important championships are the ones presented like shit? Maria's model is awful and looks nothing like her. I once ran into Maria at a Five Guys, and not only was she extremely nice, she's the type of gorgeous that'll make you want to light yourself on fire. They did her dirty here. Look at this! No, that's not Melania Trump. That's supposed to be Stephanie McMahon. What happened here? This whole thing reminds me of the off-putting renders on the select screen. Ukes were doing this weird thing at the time where they would superimpose a real photograph of a wrestler's face onto a digital model, and they're just not right. Chris Jericho has a theme song in this game that I've literally never heard before. Now granted, I wasn't watching wrestling at the time, but I also have no recollection of Shawn Michaels using a modified figure 4 as a finisher. Who can educate me on this? Was it like one storyline where he used this and the developers were like, hey, make sure Shawn has that new move, or something like that? Let me know. Also, what the hell is a normal submission match? Normal? As opposed to what? I imagine some hillbilly booking this, like, it's gonna be a normal submission match. None of them fucking fancy submissions, okay? Keep it simple. Career mode kinda sucks too. It's just a list of matches, all one-on-one, where eventually we can unlock gimmick matches, one at a time. We win the title we're gunning for, and rather than defending it or getting involved in a storyline, it's just on to the next belt to repeat the same process. Boring. You know what's not boring? Lighting a son of a bitch on fire. That's right, the Inferno match is here in SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. Every big bump cranks up the temperature gauge in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, and when that thing hits 500, the fire rises. Dragging your opponent toward the ropes is all it takes to light them up. This is pretty awesome. Hey, sometimes art imitates life, doesn't it? Pants on fire, as they say. There's a brand new camera angle outside of the ring that I think was supposed to feel more like the television presentation, but it doesn't. These angles did not exist on TV. It's cool because it's new, but these strange angles make it hard to pull off what would otherwise be pedestrian maneuvers. Look at me struggling to lean him against the table here. You have to be dead center for your opponent to flip up onto the table, and the camera being anchored down in that corner means it's impossible to find the sweet spot. That's annoying. Hey, where the hell can I get some Smack Pizza? They're advertising it across the skyboxes in every arena. I even found some backstage during this brawl, but I'd like to try it in real life. Anybody got any leads? Look at these ads. WWE. Excellent creativity. Do you think red smack pizza and blue smack pizza taste different? Guys, I need to know. Every new WWE game comes with an updated roster. We all know this. Sometimes, like the jump from Shut Your Mouth to Here Comes the Pain, the landscape changes in a major way, and for the better. But other times, the losses outweigh the gains. We've got Big Daddy V here now, along with Kofi Kingston, Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, the debut of The Miz, and more. But look who didn't carry over from SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. We lost The Rock, Stone Cold, Bret Hart, Mick Foley, The Sandman, Sabu, Booker T. I could keep going. This is the first time since 2003's SmackDown Here Comes the Pain that the legend branding has been completely removed. I have absolutely no idea what the excuse for these guys not being here is, as it's not like they were no longer under WWE contracts. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of the names I just mentioned are present in WWE Legends of WrestleMania, a completely separate release that featured a roster transfer option. You could take Jeff Hardy and CM Punk from this game and put them into that game, but pulling The Rock and Stone Cold and Bret Hart from Legends of WrestleMania into SVR09, no dice. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, that sucks. This was also the first SVR game to feature downloadable wrestlers after release, too, with Doink, Vader, the Bushwhackers, and more joining the fray. I'm really glad the Bushwhackers are here and not Austin or The Rock. Sick. I learned from the cutting room floor, an awesome source for abandoned and unused features in video games, that a fully functional version of The Godfather is tucked away inside the game's files. Never was he advertised or released to the public in any capacity. What the hell happened here? This is bizarre. WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 released on November 9th, 2008. Did it sell well? Yes, it did, to the tune of over 4 million copies. Critics applauded the new Road to WrestleMania mode, but knocked it for the dated and some would say stale gameplay. I realize that I haven't been sharing my usual personal stories from my younger years in this episode, but as you know from the beginning, I was not in touch with wrestling at the time that this game was the new hotness. I was totally checked out. I assumed that awfully slow look and feel of SVR 08 had continued on into the future, so I wasn't even worried about it. But visiting this game now, here in 2024, I have to say, I'm impressed. My thoughts and feelings on SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 are much more positive than I would have predicted. The gameplay is sped back up to a normal pace. Road to WrestleMania is a fun new avenue to explore, and I appreciate creative finisher and highlight reels. The roster is middling, a lack of a real season mode sucks, GM mode being killed is a horrible loss, but none of these issues make SVR 09 a bad game in my book. When I covered SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, I said I would not recommend it, that there are better WWE games that released before and after that installment. When it comes to 2009, I mean, there are still better games that released before and after this one, but if you're asking me which one you should play between 2008 and 2009, the answer is 09, and it's not even a debate. I do find that this gameplay is getting very old. In the 3 years between SVR 2007 and 2009, almost nothing major has really changed mechanically. And not only that, but once again, I've never lost a match in this game. Ever. It is so easy, even on the hardest difficulty. My average match time was around 4 minutes long, which was a far cry from just a few years ago. One of my greatest compliments toward the first SmackDown vs. Raw game was issued at the more realistic, longer wrestling matches. Man, that's already gone, and it's a shame. People complained that AEW Fight Forever's matches were only a few minutes long, and hey, you better keep that same energy here for what you consider a classic SVR game, you know? So did I miss a great entry in the franchise while I was on my hiatus from wrestling? No, I don't think so. I would say SVR 09 is pretty good, but it's not near the top. This is not one of the best wrestling games ever made, that's for sure. I know many of you in the comments have great memories with this one, and as always, I would love to hear your stories. Let me know what your experiences were like. I will be reading. Thank you for watching this installment of Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series. Man, so many episodes, still so many games to cover. I think with this next one, we're gonna head off the beaten path, down the deep, dark road of MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch. Oh god, why am I doing this? On this show, I like to shine a light on professional wrestling video games. The all-time greats are a joy to cover because we get to relive some of our favorite memories together, right? Even the lower end of the spectrum. They're not good, but it doesn't hurt to goof on the garbage once in a while either. Nothing on Triangle X Squared Circle is ever purposely hateful. I don't like to scream about projects that were failures from the stance of, I hope you all lose your jobs, I'm glad your studio closed, or anything like that. Those people exist, for sure. Some of them have channels that are a lot bigger than mine. Hey, good luck with that. That's never gonna be me. And while I'll never celebrate a studio closure or rejoice that someone's art crashed and burned, I do have to be honest in my criticisms. And with honesty at the forefront, I have to tell you that today's game, MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch, might be the absolute worst piece of garbage I will ever cover on this show. We'll get into the deep, dark details of who made this trash, where it came from, and what happened next. But just know ahead of time, this one is a doozy, to say the least. Just to be clear, before we get into the background details and origins of the project, this is the type of gameplay we're dealing with.
Michael Flatley would be proud.
And now that you've seen that, you might have a better idea of what I meant when I said this might actually be the worst game I've ever brought to the show. But how does this happen? How do we wind up with a final product like this?
Beans, the musical fruit. The level of self-loathing is just incredible.
How does this make it to store shelves? Goodness gracious. The development team behind MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch was Big 8 Productions. If you recognize that name, maybe you're a longtime fan of this show, because I've spoken about Big 8 Productions at length. Why? Because they were the team who brought us The Simpsons Wrestling. God damn it. Okay, well, with that in mind, we should have seen this coming, right? Up until this point, I would call The Simpsons Wrestling the lowest of the low, the bottom of the barrel, the shit on your shoe. Can Celebrity Deathmatch keep its head above those septic sewer waters, or will we crown a new undisputed champion of trash? And yes, I like to show off the physical copies of the games sometimes because people ask if I'm using emulators or any of that sort of thing. No, I always use physical copies and real hardware. And that means that I do have to spend my own money on games like this. I probably shouldn't have come this far without introducing the source material. I know my audience skews around my age, 20s, 30s, 40s. You guys probably all know about Celebrity Deathmatch, right? The television series introduced in 1998. If you've never heard of it or have never seen it, it's exactly what it sounds like. In some sense. It was a 30-minute claymation animated show where famous people would fight to the death.
Stallone takes it on the shoulder.
Get out of my ring!
Schwarzenegger has done it!
The first appearance of the concept aired in 1997 on an MTV special called Cartoon Sushi. It was a one-off segment that pitted rock star Marilyn Manson against convicted criminal Charles Manson. This skit went over huge with audiences and, in short order, was adapted into its own show, which ran for 4 years, totaling 75 episodes. Everyone appeared on this show. The Spice Girls took on Hanson. We saw Tim Allen versus Jerry Seinfeld. Hell, Stone Cold versus Mr. McMahon even took place in the Celebrity Deathmatch ring. Man, these were good times. This was one of the shows to watch back then. Was I a little too young for some of the humor? Sure, but a good deal of it sailed straight over my head anyway, so who cares? It's funny, coming back and watching some of these, you forget just how insulting shows like this used to be. Celebrity Deathmatch was huge. I watched it, my friends watched it, we were always looking forward to the next fight, hoping that our favorite actor or musician would show up. And then, of course, we would be pissed off when they would show up and they would lose their fight. It's a concept that begged to be turned into a video game. The question is, who would sign up for something like this? Which celebrity would say, like, oh yeah, go ahead, put me in there? And that is a whole different conversation. I learned through my research that, according to the show's creator, Eric Fogel, they didn't need anybody's permission to feature them on the show. The First Amendment includes and protects satire as free speech. Celebrities, ever present in the public eye, are apparently free to lampoon at any given moment. That's a little crazy to me, but whatever. I don't care enough to really pick apart what is or isn't kosher about that, you know? There were celebrities annoyed about their presentation on the show, namely Jennifer Lopez, who was upset that they portrayed her with a Hispanic accent, while others were overjoyed. Eric Fogel stated that Steven Spielberg sent him a fruit basket after his fight against Alfred Hitchcock, even joking that he demanded a rematch. I can't confirm whether or not the playable roster of the video game were used with permission, or if they fell under parody/satire, but I would assume this was created under an agreement. I mean, look who we have here. Anna Nicole Smith, Tommy Lee, Shannon Doherty, Jerry Springer, Miss Cleo from the fucking TV psychic scam bullshit, Carrot Top, Cindy Margolis, Ron Jeremy, Dennis Rodman, Carmen Electra, Mr. T, Busta Rhymes, Marilyn Manson, NSYNC. Come on. These, for the most part, are not A-list names. The game came out in 2003. Many of these people were far past their peak of popularity. Several of them were considered washed-up jokes of a bygone era. That sounds harsh. I'm not saying that's how I feel, but that was how the business treated them. If Big A Productions had the freedom of satire to put anyone in the game, I think we would have had the biggest names possible. I think we would have seen Johnny Depp and Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston, Britney Spears, Eminem. Come on. That would have been something. But that's not what we got here. We'll get into the gameplay in a second, but I want to focus for a minute on one of this title's only strengths. And strengths might be pushing it, to be honest. But we're gonna find compliments where we can. On the show, commentators Johnny Gomez and Nick Diamond were a highlight. And I have to say, their wit and charm is given room to shine here in the game.
He's gonna lay some bling bling on your ding ding. It's Busta Rhymes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner.
Hell, that was easy. Wow, what a fight.
I must say, Johnny, that was really something.
Well, we're out of time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Good fight, good night.
What an incredibly exciting fight. I tell you, Johnny, it's action like that that makes me want to go backstage and rub one out.
The series referee, Judge Mills Lane, is also present, and he rules too.
I want a good, clean fight, and there'll be no bodyguards around to break this up. This is a fight to the death. Okay, fighters ready? Now let's boogie down.
And that's about it. I think those are all the nice things that I have to say about Celebrity Deathmatch. I mean, outside of the fatality moves, but we'll get to those in just a minute. Let's dive into the overall gameplay. We've built up to it long enough. Let's take a look. The gameplay is fucking terrible. Square, triangle, and X seem to do striking attacks, I guess. You'd think I'd be able to give a straight answer on that, but I really can't. The buttons seem to do different things at different times. It's really bizarre. Circle is a grapple move of sorts, but again, sometimes your character will just do a different grapple move. Filling your MTV meter, which is accomplished by doing damage, taking damage, or taunting, allows you to hit a super move by pressing R2. These are alright, some of them are kind of fun to look at a time or two.
Shannon is a ferocious tiger. The opponent is a tiny thing.
Nick, it's raining.
I don't really understand this horror-themed stuff for Cindy Margolis. I had to look at her filmography to be sure, and almost none of it has anything to do with horror. So I have no idea. What does Anna Nicole Smith do? Well, she'll bash her huge titties into your head. She'll sit on your face and fart.
Keep your fist up.
All this game does is make fun of her and call her fat and a pig, which is... wow.
Now entering the ring, weighing in at a lot, Anna Nicole Smith.
The fatality moves, or kill moves, I guess. Nobody else can really call them fatalities, right? These can be fun.
This fight is over. Good night, Irene.
No contest. Fight's over.
I think they could have come up with something better for Marilyn Manson than having some weird devil boy pull the opponent into a pentagram, but whatever. But Dennis Rodman ripping your head off and slam dunking it? That is awesome. All the members of NSYNC teaming up to rip you to pieces? Excellent. I really love Tommy Lee pulling your intestines out and playing them like they're guitar strings, while the pyro explodes in the background. So good. And hey, more compliments. How about it? Let's bounce from here straight into the episodes mode, which is basically your story or career sort of deal. Is it really cool that the different stages or episodes are laid out like this is the TV Guide channel? Yes, it is. That got me. Each and every fight across all 7 episodes gets a full introduction from Johnny Gomez and Nick Diamond, which adds to the authenticity.
It's the Busty versus the Buster, the Sweet versus the Meat, and a main event that'll pop your top tonight on Celebrity Deathmatch. Hello everyone, I'm Johnny Gomez, and this is Celebrity Deathmatch.
And I'm Nick Diamond. Thanks for joining our show. Everyone knows TV is good for your mind, and so are video games. And through the miracle of technology, we've mixed them together.
I hope our fighters went number 1 and number 2, or it's gonna get messy. Tonight's fight card will blow your minds.
First up tonight, Anna Nicole Smith and Busta Rhymes get a little jungle fever and try to cure it with a dose of sexually charged, pent-up frustration. Then, a man I've admired for many years is going to add another babe to his belt. And last but not least, we have a ferocious main event. Shock rocker Marilyn Manson is going to square off against the annoying comedian Carrot Top in a fight to claim the title of the world's most perilous pale person.
Mills can't keep the carnage bottled up any longer. Let's pop this cork.
Nothing really carries over from one episode to the next, so it's really just a list of fights. We're not seeing a story play out or anything, which is a bit disappointing, but what can you do? I'll tell you what you can do. You can unlock new characters and arenas by playing through episodes mode. There's a strange connection here with the classic Universal monsters like the Wolfman, the Mummy, and Frankenstein's monster. The Bride even appears in the monster's finishing move. I don't know what the connection is. MTV is owned by Paramount, not Universal. And Universal are usually pretty protective of their iterations of these monsters, so the Bride being here, straight out of the 1935 film, that's a head-scratcher. The main event of episode 5 is Frankenstein vs. the Wolfman, which could be seen as a sequel to the 1943 film.
And in the main event, Frankenstein's monster and the Wolfman find out who is the scariest old-school, scary movie monster.
This is really fucking cool to a classic monster fan like myself, but it's a shame that it's trapped inside a game as bad as Celebrity Deathmatch. We can also unlock Cousin Grimm and battle-tested versions of our commentators here in this mode, as well as this strange alien. Jesus, this looks completely unfinished. I have done my best here today to put over as many aspects of this game as possible. It's not my goal here today to relentlessly shit on this thing. That's not what I'm trying to do. It just sucks. There's nothing I can do about that. With that said, I would now like to focus on a handful of things that are complete dog shit. You might have picked up on this if you're a big wrestling game fan, or maybe you didn't. I don't know how observant you are, but look, Celebrity Deathmatch feels like Big Ape Productions popped in a few PS1 wrestling games and just went, oh, okay, let's do that. This character select screen is pulled straight from the WCW Nitro and Thunder games, all the way down to pressing the square button to have the character cut a promo.
I pity your opponent.
Well, I'm gonna whip some ass.
Thanks for choosing me. Now go buy my albums.
Thanks for choosing little old me, sugar butt. Oh, so you like bad girls, do you?
The Create a Celebrity menu is pulled straight from WWF Warzone, going down to the basement. Side story, I read online that entering a created character's name as Adam Sandler would unlock him, so I skeptically tried it, and it doesn't work. I just turned this guy into my buddy the artist, and damn it to hell, I feel like I did a pretty good job. Create a Celebrity sucks, by the way. There are like 4 different outfits you can put together. The artist just so happens to wear these clothes from time to time, so it was easy.
That's it! Fight's over!
One thing that I find ridiculous is that there's practically no music to speak of across this entire experience. Unless you count the 1-second clips that play when the NSYNC guys hit a move, which gets old very quickly.
Incredible. Oh!
It's not just about killing celebrities, but how you move.
The tomb level is surrounded by acid. The Big Kahuna has a lava moat. There are some very cool stage hazards here, none of which work at all. These are just for show. Exiting the fighting platform is not possible in any way. Ugh. I owned Celebrity Deathmatch as a teenager. I don't really remember where I got it. I may have bought it for myself. It might have been a gift. I think it was only $20 at launch, but I could be wrong about that. Look, the point is this. You're not seeing my first experiences with this game. I owned it when I was a kid, and I hated it. I knew then, at 13, 14 years old, that This shit was garbage, and that's a shame. It really is, because the concept of Celebrity Deathmatch is amazing. It should have been so easy to turn this into something fun, and that's just not here at all. As previously stated, MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch video game released on October 14th, 2003, and it reviewed about as well as you'd imagine. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who has anything positive to say about it. And it's not because there's some vendetta against the IP, it's just that this game is a piece of shit. It's poorly designed. I really can't even do justice to how unresponsive each and every character feels. It's awful. Truly terrible. Do not play it. Do not track down a copy on eBay. Don't waste your time or money. I'm sorry to be so negative, but holy shit, this is trash. Somehow, probably based on name recognition alone, Celebrity Deathmatch sold just under 1 million copies, but that wasn't good enough to save anyone. Developer Big Ape Productions went out of business just a few months after the game's release, and even publisher Gotham Games folded at the same time. There is no happy ending to the story, but there is the final question. Is Celebrity Deathmatch the worst game I've ever covered on Triangle X Squared Circle? Well, all things considered, I think I'd have to say no. The finishing moves, cool level designs, and classic monsters alone are enough to keep Celebrity Deathmatch just the tiniest bit above The Simpsons Wrestling, which was also developed by Big Ape Productions. Rest in peace, you fucking lunatics. We've been through the ringer over the decades, but all things considered, the pro wrestling video game landscape doesn't look too bad these days. Whether you loved it, hated it, or were indifferent to it, AEW Fight Forever was hotly anticipated for years. Upon release, most gamers found it fun to play, but unfortunately quite shallow in the features department. Regardless of your personal opinion on the game, the fact was, this was fresh blood. A new combatant stepping into the ring, hopefully a sign of things to come. Retromania Wrestling flew off the top rope with its old school arcadey stylings in 2021. And that was a game I actually created the trophy list for. How you doing? In 2018, Spike Chunsoft gave us Fire Pro Wrestling World, one of the all-time greats in my mind, with high-level gameplay and customization options that would make your head spin. See? Things haven't been so bad. If we look off into the distance, there are even more new challengers waiting to make their debuts. Ultra Pro Wrestling is the latest title promising to be the next WWF No Mercy, and with a launch date scheduled for this year, we'll soon find out what this one brings to the table. Virtual Basements, the wrestling code, has been announcing new roster members for what feels like 5 years at this point, and we've yet to see substantial gameplay, so that's another one that's up in the air. I think we're all in agreement that the tide being this high, with the ring being this full of hungry competitors, it's a good thing for fans of wrestling games. The ability to pick and choose which ones we like grants us the power of choice. One company I haven't been talking about is the #1 promotion in the world, and for good reason. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not coming for the most recent 2K games, which by all accounts have been great. I'm rewinding a little bit further. I'm looking back at the WWE 2K20 era, a game so bad and so broken its sequel was canceled so that the team would have the time to figure out what the hell it was they were supposed to be doing. But there was another WWE video game produced in 2K21's absence. A game that promised to deliver the arcadey action fans had been clamoring for years. This was WWE 2K Battlegrounds. Normally, I would launch into my opening question here, the hook, as it were. You know, something like, would WWE 2K Battlegrounds, with its silly art style and its promise of arcadey action, be enough to wash away the grime of WWE 2K20, or would it get sucked into that same black hole of quality? You know, something like that. I'm not going to do that here today because I have a very real warning for you up front. Do not buy WWE 2K Battlegrounds. This is not a part of my critique. I'm not even putting down the game. I am warning you of a very real scam being run by 2K/Take-Two Interactive, and companies like Sony are letting it happen. I'm serious, and I will give you full details later in the video, but yeah, up front, there's a scam going on here. Do not buy this game. There's your hook. How do you like that? Now, before we get into the scam, which is 100% not clickbait, by the way, I don't do business like that, and before we get into the gameplay, I want to talk about where WWE 2K Battlegrounds came from. That makes sense, right? To start at the beginning. As previously stated, WWE 2K20 was an abysmal disappointment. If you're not aware as to why that is or what happened, I'll try to make it quick. Yuke's, the team who developed some of the greatest wrestling video games of all time, they worked with WWE for decades. Their last WWE game was 2K19. 2K19 was received very well. It was considered one of the strongest WWE offerings in some time, but the relationship between WWE and Yuke's had come to an end. Stepping in to replace Yuke's would be Visual Concepts, a studio founded in 1988, purchased by Sega in 1997, and then eventually purchased again in 2005, this time by Take-Two Interactive. Visual Concepts have a deep and familiar history. Seriously, you've played their games. NBA 2K, MLB 2K, NHL 2K, College Hoops 2K, goddamn Clay Fighter? Come on. I had to throw Clay Fighter in there. And Visual Concepts, while we're at it, this is the team solely responsible for the most recent WWE 2K games, the ones that are reviewing very well. So, I'm not saying that they're untalented or garbage or anything of the sort. The fact of the matter is that clearly Visual Concepts were thrown into the deep end when Yuke's left, and seemingly without a suitable amount of time to create something worth releasing. They had been assisting Yuke's in the development of the 2K games dating all the way back to WWE 2K14, but assisting another team and taking the wheel yourselves are clearly very, very different. The stars didn't align, there wasn't enough time, poor decisions were made from a high level, and on the production front, look, all in all, 2K20 was a mess. It was a piece of shit. Those reviews on launch day were earned, and that's how it goes. From my point of view, and I think this is just objectively true across the board, when the word came out that there would be no WWE 2K21, that Visual Concepts were going to take that development time and work really hard to ensure what would be WWE 2K22 would be up to our standards. That's what you want to hear in situations like this. For them to take a step back and say, look, we f***ed up. We know we f***ed up. We're not going to release another game real fast and shake you upside down for another $60 to $70. We need time to get this right. Like, we need another whole year to get this right. That's what we need. Take your time. Put out something that is worth a damn. You know, if you go on Twitter right now, there are so many people complaining about the fact that Grand Theft Auto 6 is still not out. Rockstar are a team that take their work very seriously. Be patient, because when GTA 6 does arrive, that wait will have been worth it. Let them take their time, man. Let them take their time. Wrestling fans weren't looking at a wait quite this long, though, as for the first time in forever, a second WWE video game was in production to stand alongside the core series. WWE 2K Battlegrounds promised arcadey gameplay. It promised that we'd be able to brawl without limits. The art style, to me, was instantly a problem. I wasn't really into the look. And this was coming to us from Saber Interactive. Come on, remember Time Shift? No? Yeah, this was a weird game. I should do a video on some of these one-off PS3 games at some point. Look, I know, it's not like I'm talking about Naughty Dog or Valve or anything. I'm just trying to be nice. I wrote 2K Battlegrounds off immediately. We had all been looking forward to a new, faster, action-packed, arcadey wrestling game. But just upon first glance, and I'll speak for myself here, my thoughts were, that's not what I meant. I've hit you with a ton of setup. Let's dive into the gameplay now. This is WWE 2K Battlegrounds. The moves are ridiculous. You're flying 25, 30 feet in the air like this is a superhero movie. The proportions of the wrestlers' bodies are really strange. WWE All-Stars pumped everybody up to incredible Hulk-like proportions, whereas 2K Battlegrounds has more of an, I don't know, super jacked little person style, right? Don't you think these wrestlers look like muscular dwarves from a high fantasy game or something? I don't know. Let me know what you think. I'm just saying this isn't what I wanted. One thing I've always been confused about is who this game is actually for. I mean, at a glance, does it look like it's being made for the SmackDown Here Comes the Pain fan? Or does it look like it's being made for children? The gameplay itself, despite being marketed as simpler than the main WWE 2K series and easier to pick up and play, really isn't very simple at all. Square and triangle, punch and kick, that's easy enough. But immediately we're jumping into holding L1 or L2 to modify strikes, but only if a specific meter is filled with a specific amount and you're playing as a character with a specific fighting style. Simple grapple moves can be hit with the X button, but holding L1 or L2 will amplify the move, depending on your meters, your power-ups, and your fighting style. The tutorial says finishing moves are hit with L2 and square, but in my experience, that doesn't work at all. It's actually L2 and R2 together. Sometimes you hit a signature, like Randy Orton's T-Bone here, and sometimes it's a finisher, like Randy Orton's RKO here. Why did the move change? I have no idea. I pressed the same exact buttons. Across this video, you will undoubtedly see the same dozen or so maneuvers hit over and over again. That's not because I don't know how to play. It's not because I keep pressing the same combinations. It's because 2K Battlegrounds feels like it has about 12 moves in it. I'm serious. I think everyone on the roster can do this pop-up diamond cutter. No fewer than 10 wrestlers have this jackhammer as a basic setup move, and I'm already showing the rising flying punches again. This is like every other character can do this move. So bear with me on that front. What's funny is that even with so few moves in the game, Jerry Lawler and Mauro Ranallo don't call a single one of them. I swear on my life, you will hear Jerry Lawler say something is gonna be good or something isn't gonna be good 15 to 20 times per match.
This should be good. Oh my goodness, it is good. Oh, this is gonna be good. Oh, does that make you dizzy? This should be good. Look out. Oh, did you see that? This should be good. Look out. Whoa, I can't believe it. What's he got in mind here? Oh, this should be good. Oh, it is great. This should be good. Oh, yes, it's definitely good. Ow, I've never seen anything like that. What's gonna happen here? Oh, it's not gonna be good. Oh, man.
I can't believe how awful this commentary is. And it's not Jerry's fault. It's not Mauro's fault. Their delivery is actually amazing. They sound excited and dialed into what's happening. It's just whoever wrote their lines gave them absolutely nothing to work with. At this point, I have a question for you, and I need you to make a selection. Would you rather talk about this game's campaign, or would you rather talk about one of the biggest problems surrounding 2K Battlegrounds? Go ahead. Think about it. Make your selection. Yeah, I had a feeling you'd pick that one. Let's talk about microtransactions, everybody's favorite feature in the modern video game. WWE 2K Battlegrounds might literally be the worst example of microtransaction greed I have ever seen in my life. Imagine releasing a WWE video game in 2020 and Becky Lynch is locked. Day 1, minute 1, you're gonna have to pay real money to play as Becky Lynch. And it's not just the man. Stone Cold, Ric Flair, Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, Kevin Nash, Kane, Jeff Hardy, Aleister Black, AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Paige, Mickie James, Trish Stratus, Razor Ramon, Big E, Xavier Woods, I can keep going. Nearly 100 wrestlers are locked behind a paywall. These wrestlers can be unlocked through playing the game and earning enough in-game currency, but I can tell you that after 14 plus hours with 2K Battlegrounds, having played through the entire story mode and completing over 100 matches, I had enough in-game currency to buy 5 new wrestlers. 5. Each character has between 2 and 4 costumes, and every alternate outfit must be purchased through a microtransaction. Whether it's in-game currency or real money, the fact remains that's a microtransaction. Upon firing up the game for the first time, there is one arena to play in. Completing the story mode will unlock the other 6 or so arenas, but the only 2 real-life settings are Raw and WrestleMania. There's a SmackDown theme in Create a Battleground, but you're gonna have to pay for it. There's a SummerSlam theme in there as well, and you're gonna have to pay for it. Now keep in mind, these aren't even arenas. These are ring aprons and logos, and they ain't free. This all gets so much worse when we step into scam territory. Alright, I guess we've reached the point of this video where I am going to go in depth on the very real scam being run through WWE 2K Battlegrounds. Now let me set the scene like this. A while back, I purchased the digital deluxe version of this game. That digital deluxe version should immediately grant me access to all 3 versions of Stone Cold, The Rock, Ronda Rousey, and Edge, and I'm also supposed to have WWE Golden Bucks to purchase other wrestlers. None of those things are present in this download. None of them. All of those wrestlers I just mentioned are still locked, and I was awarded 0, count 'em 0 WWE Golden Bucks. To add to this situation, I also bought the Ultimate Brawlers pack, which was an add-on to unlock all 75 of the locked wrestlers. Now, it's only their base costume, but either way, I wanted to have all of the wrestlers for this video for visual variety, for your sake. Are you ready for this? The Ultimate Brawlers pack doesn't f***ing work at all. Every single one of those 75 wrestlers that I paid to unlock are still locked. Yes, I've deleted the game and re-downloaded it. Yes, I have gone into the system settings and restored the license. Yes, I have gone through the PlayStation app, made sure I selected the digital deluxe version and downloaded that to my console. Yes, I have gone to the PlayStation Store itself. I've highlighted the Ultimate Brawlers pack and it says you already own this item. It does not let me download it again. Not only have I done all of these things, I have done all of these things with PlayStation customer support in a live chat. They went through all of these steps with me one by one. That got me absolutely nowhere. I was told that I'm most likely not going to get a refund because the game has been downloaded and the DLC has been consumed, which it has not because it doesn't exist. If the DLC was consumed, these wrestlers would be unlocked and we would not have a problem. I also reached out to 2K customer support, who told me that they can do nothing about the add-on content for the game, and they are interested to hear what PlayStation is going to say about this. These items that you can purchase right now do not work. You can go on the PlayStation Network, grab the Digital Deluxe, grab the Ultimate Brawlers pack. They do not function. They will take your money. It won't work. And when you say, hey, this doesn't work, they're going to say, sorry, pal, nothing we can do for you. This is a f***ing scam. As it stands right now, 2K told me that they can't help me because they can't apparently control the content of their own f***ing game. And my case with PlayStation has been escalated to the higher-ups, though their initial support chat guy told me that I'm probably just And let me make one thing clear, it's not about the money, Dan Dans. For both of these things combined, I spent maybe $16 because they were on sale. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that I am f***ing sick of shit like this. These big corporations that will take your money, and when the thing doesn't f***ing work, you're like, hey, I kind of got screwed. Can you make this right? They're like, no. And they have the gall at that point to say, if there's anything else that we can help you with, let us know. I have one problem and you didn't help me with that. You want to help me with something else? You want to help me with a problem that doesn't exist? I'm sorry I'm so flustered about this, but it's f***ing annoying. And while we're at it, YouTube is f***ing on me too. The history of Friday the 13th Part 5 was knocked down to a yellow dollar sign. I go into the reasons why, and it says because there's an F-bomb in the opening 7 seconds. Guys, no there isn't. Go watch that video right now. That does not occur. Across 2021, I released The History of Halloween, a 6-part, nearly 6-hour retrospective series. And when I'm going back and forth through YouTube chat support and then with an actual person through email, I cannot even get them to acknowledge the fact that it doesn't happen. At this point, it doesn't even matter if it's too late for you to do anything about it. At least admit to me that you know what you're charging me with is bullshit. They won't. They keep hitting me with, if there's anything else we can help you with. You f***ed me. And you know what? I'm not alone with this 2K scam. I Googled around when I first ran into the issue. There are Reddit threads about this. There are YouTube videos and YouTube comments about this, and they all lead to the same area. Hey, is there a fix for this? No. I brought this up to 2K and PlayStation. They don't give a f***. That tells me that I'm not the first person to tell either of these companies, hey, other people are having this problem too. And the biggest issue, like I said, it's not about my money. The biggest issue is that these items are still for sale on these storefronts right now. You can run into this issue tomorrow, and you will also be So to wrap this segment, 2K, PlayStation, YouTube, and I guess me, because I'm standing here in my own video talking about all three of them. Scam promo over. Back to the game itself. There's a pretty big story mode here where I was under the impression that I needed to create a character to play it, and I was wrong. I guess I have to be Bolo Reynolds. I don't know, man. I think my guy Rimbo Jangan is cooler. More on him later. What's the story here? Well, Paul Heyman pitches Vince McMahon on a new brand. A brand built upon newcomers. Stone Cold joins up with the old ECW owner, and we're off to the races. That's where Bolo Reynolds comes in. He's the new guy, and he fights his way to Monday Night Raw inside of like 4 matches. After that, we jump to a new guy, Billy Huggins. This hillbilly prick is from the Bayou, so that's where we wrestle. I figured Billy would graduate to SmackDown, but he doesn't. He just goes over Brock Lesnar clean and then is off to WrestleMania, I guess. And yeah, if you haven't put the pieces together by now, there are no cutscenes in this campaign mode. What we are treated to are very basic and rudimentary comic book panels. The whole time. From the Bayou, it's on to Mexico with TJ Salazar. His first match is against Bryan Danielson, who is fighting diarrhea. Not kidding. Is this our final character in story mode? Nope, now it's on to the women. First up is the tag team of Cassie and Polly Vell, who look like Gem of the Holograms rejects. Then it's over to Scotland with Jessica Johnson, the worst character in the whole mode. Oh my god, I just hate the powerhouse fighting style. Their moveset is even more limited than the others, and they're just so slow. Straight up, I hated every second of having to play with Jessica Johnson. The final character is Gabriel Pierce, a hacker guy, and I didn't record any of his matches. But they take place in the Detroit arena, which looks like this. Check it out. Nash hitting a power bomb on the Giant, but a lot nicer than the one he hit at Sold Out 98. How about it? I mentioned another mode where I could play as my guy, Rimbo Jangan, and here it is. Battleground Challenge. This is laid out just like the campaign mode, for the most part. We start out with our jabroni, like a 60 overall rating, and with each match, we earn points to spend in the skill tree. Look at this f***ing skill tree, man. It's huge. After finishing my first match where I went over Akira Tozawa, I took a look at what was in store. Holy sh**. Look how huge this is. How good do you think Rimbo Jangan is supposed to be? Anyway, I fired up my next match and I'm facing Tozawa? Again? Look how many matches I have to play. The first two are going to be against the same guy? I don't think so. That's enough Battleground Challenge for me. Rimbo Jangan retires at 1-0. Undefeated. Undertaker's not undefeated. Fuck you, Undertaker. Who are you? You think you're better than Rimbo Jangan? I do have a few compliments to pay 2K Battlegrounds, and yes, I am aware that this episode is skewing pretty harshly into the negative. You might be surprised to hear at this point that I don't hate this game. I actually don't hate this game at all. There were moments where I was having a lot of fun, and I think one of my biggest complaints with 2K Battlegrounds is that it's pretty close to being good. It's not quite there, but it's not that far off. Let me just say that I think the 2K Battlegrounds version of a cage match is really fun. Money appears strapped to the steel and you've got to climb up and pull down the cash, all while minding the fact that this structure is electrified. Thousands of volts are pumped through the fence when the alarm sounds, and you don't want to get caught in that sort of thunderstorm. After you've collected enough money, you are free to leave over the top. Do I wish there was also a pinfall and submission option for cage matches? Sure, but this is creative, and I'm for it. Stone Cold using the phrase soup sandwich in campaign mode popped me huge. Shout out to Spider-Man on PS2, the only other place I've heard this phrase uttered in my life.
You're crazier than a soup sandwich.
Sometimes the ring will just explode.
From the top turnbuckle, comes crashing down. That's gotta hurt.
Too many high impact moves and this thing just gives out. And it's not a canned animation. All of the broken pieces of the turnbuckle and the ring posts, they've all got their own physics. The posts can even be used as a weapon if you're strong enough to lift them. The match doesn't end either. This keeps going until someone is pinned or submits. I gotta tell you, man, it was moments like these that put a smile on my face. I was genuinely having a ton of fun with 2K Battlegrounds when like this would happen. Is it fun to throw opponents to the crocodiles? Yes, it is. Throwing them under the cars in Detroit is great, along with the exploding barrel. Letting the helicopter take you up and flying down from the sky on the boot camp stage is awesome.
High altitude! High risk! Don't tell me! Oh, the helicopter! What a hit!
The remote-controlled goat in Mexico is silly, and the bagpipe spot in Scotland is really stupid, and is probably the one piece of arena interaction that totally misses the mark. And with that, let's bounce into some things that suck. What is with the countouts in this game? They're totally broken. I thought maybe this was a glitch, as I am totally in the safe zone by 10, even if I'm cutting it close. But it happened again in much more egregious fashion here. I don't know, man, but that shit is fucked up. Why does Shane McMahon have a 92 overall rating? Are you f***ing kidding me? That ties Shane with the Ultimate Warrior and Ric Flair. Shane McMahon is 2 points higher than Shawn Michaels. 2 points higher than Randy Orton. He's better than Randy Savage. What is happening here? This is not the British Bulldog. So that's weird. I'm not going to talk about Tournaments mode because you had to pay to enter Tournaments mode, for one. And to go one further, they don't even exist anymore. How about it? I love how this basically translates to, you can play this mode to earn points, or you can just give us real money and then you don't have to do this at all. It's up to you. You know what's really odd though? This game does not have a Platinum trophy. This is so rare, Dan-Dans. You can probably count on one hand how many big releases don't include a full trophy list, let alone one from a major brand with a massive IP attached. Who f***ed this up? How does this get through? Look, I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. WWE 2K Battlegrounds is really close to being a good game. I love the color palette. I think the imagination that went into the settings is really fun. The action figure imagery is the right kind of, ooh, I want that design, though making us pay for all of it is the exact opposite. The movesets are ridiculously limited, the body styles are rough, corners were cut, and it shows. Much like All-Stars, the last WWE game that promised arcadey, over-the-top action, Battlegrounds has a few things going for it, but not nearly enough. And there's plenty going against it. To be clear, WWE All-Stars is awesome, 2K Battlegrounds is not. It's almost pretty good. Almost. A pretty good game was within reach before they f***ed it up with all the microtransaction greed. Forget about the scam. That's a corporate thing. It's not the game's fault. I want to like this game. And I actually had way more fun with it than I was expecting, but I can't quite give it the stamp of 616 Entertainment approval. Critically, 2K Battlegrounds pulled middling reviews, and I think these are pretty fair, if a bit generous. Releasing on September 18th, 2020, WWE 2K Battlegrounds filled the hole where WWE 2K21 was supposed to be. And that's about all it did. Never once did I hear a single rumbling about a sequel. Never once would this IP be mentioned again. WWE 2K Battlegrounds was another promise of the action, the type of game we'd been asking for years, that missed the mark by a much wider margin than the previous promise. The wrestling game landscape was looking pretty dire at this point, and luckily that would turn around. Visual Concepts found their footing with the mainline 2K series. Yuke's entered the ring with AEW. We've got a whole slew of new challengers on the horizon. So in spite of how bad things were, here today, in the present, it's not a bad time to be a wrestling gamer, Dan-Dans. It's really not a bad time at all. WWF SmackDown changed the game. We can all agree on that, right? Coming from Warzone and Attitude, SmackDown was the first great 3D WWF video game. I mean on PlayStation, obviously. Nintendo got WrestleMania 2000 in 1999. Every kid with an N64 was doing just fine. Don't worry about them. But me, probably many of you out there watching this video, we still had Attitude. This was the best we had. And we made do. I'm not trying to complain too much. When you're that age, you just gotta get in where you fit in, right? But then it happened. SmackDown came along in March of 2000 and gave WWF fans with PlayStations a new king of the digital ring to contend with. But what many of us did not know at the time was SmackDown was not entirely original, nor was it the first of its kind. Looks a little familiar, doesn't it? Today on Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series, we set our sights on the game that WWF SmackDown was born from. This is Power Move Pro Wrestling. Power Move Pro Wrestling looks a lot like WWF SmackDown because SmackDown basically is Power Move Pro Wrestling, only expanded upon and improved in practically every way. What I'm saying is, SmackDown was built from the foundation of Power Move. How is that possible? Well, both games were developed by the same team, that being Yuke's. We're all familiar with this logo, right? We saw this flash across the screen for the better part of 2 decades, every single time we fired up our favorite wrestling games. Back in the Power Move days, Yuke's looked like this. This was 1996, predating the WWF's blue branded title by 4 years. 5 years, if we're going by the Japanese release of Power Move, which, over there, had a different name. Tokan Retsuden, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, was New Japan Pro Wrestling's flagship video game franchise on the PlayStation. As the story goes, Activision picked up the rights to publish the game in the West. Conversations were had that basically boiled down to nobody here has any idea what the hell New Japan is. It's gonna confuse them. They're gonna wonder what the hell happened to Old Japan. Cut it. Get all this out of here. The NJPW logos were stripped out. The New Japan wrestlers like Jushin Thunder Liger, Tatsumi Fujinami, and Keiji Muto were all replaced by generic characters, and the game's title was updated to Power Move Pro Wrestling, which was more easily palatable, I guess, for us morons across the world. I do find it odd that the New Japan name does appear in Power Move Pro Wrestling. It's in text, only at the main menu, but it is here. And if you want to make this whole thing extra confusing, this same process of, hey, take the Japanese wrestling game and rebrand it, was done for Virtual Pro Wrestling. Over here, we knew that game as WCW versus the World. How about that, right? It's funny that Power Move Pro Wrestling came out 5 years before WWF SmackDown, because there are features here that are missing here. Now enough case and disc show and tell. Let me show you in detail through gameplay. This is gameplay from WWF SmackDown. Stone Cold versus Triple H, a tale as old as time. The game goes down from the stunner, and what's missing here? Notice anything odd? Who counted to 3? Run it again, and where is the referee? There is no referee. Not in SmackDown. Flashback 5 years to Power Move Pro Wrestling, and let me talk to you about Rathburn Sally. Sally's here to count the pinfalls, to gauge the submissions, and to call the rope breaks. And holy hell does he call the rope breaks. Yes, Sally is a man. I guess it's like when a guy named Salvatore has a nickname or something. I don't know. Sally calls rope breaks like I call Palermo's for dinner. How you doing? And by that, I mean way too often and to the point that it's ill-advised. Sally, we are nowhere near the ropes. For the love of all things sacred, just count the 3. For real though, having a referee in the ring was awesome. Look at WCW's fantastic games on the N64. No referee in World Tour. Revenge had the caricature of Mark Curtis. I appreciate that. WCW versus the World, WWF Warzone, WCW Mayhem. Where are the referees? Power Move Pro Wrestling respected the official, man. I like that. WWF SmackDown had ring entrances, or something like ring entrances. Just a character model walking against a giant screen that remained directly behind the wrestler in question at all times, regardless of where the camera moved, which breaks the laws of physics in more ways than one, but nobody's introducing the wrestler on their way to the ring. Flash over to Power Move.
Gorgon!
Single match, 60 minutes. In the blue corner, ay caramba! What's all the shaking and thunder? At 5'10" and 193 pounds, the Mexican Earthquake, El Temblor. Earthquake. At 6'2", 257 pounds, He's the guy who gets all the ladies and some of the men, Lance Dulac! Referee Rothburn Sully.
This ring announcer goes by the name of Gorgon, and he's voiced by the one and only Tom Kane, who you absolutely know, whether you're aware of it or not. Tom Kane played him, and even him in voice only in Halloween H2O. Tom Kane's a legend, man. Give me one more call, Gorgon, man. These are so awesome.
Some say he's 6 foot in height, possibly 240 pounds. The man the government denies, Area 51.
Area 51!
And he's not the only one who speaks. Listen to the crowd. If you get your brains bashed in for long enough, the audience will chant your name, powering you up and making it easier for you to kick out of pin attempts. Crowd chants and shouts were seen in the Acclaim games like Warzone and Attitude, but, and this is what we're comparing to, they're nowhere to be found in SmackDown. Really strange, right? Now we've got to focus on the gameplay, and if you've been paying very close attention, you might already have a couple questions. I'll test out my psychic abilities here. You can let me know in the comments how well I did, okay? I am of the mind that you feel as though you're seeing a lot of the same moves over and over. You are questioning whether the movesets themselves are extremely shallow. Huh? How'd I do? Even if these are the same vertical suplexes and diving knee drops that we know and love from SmackDown, these are not the deep and varied loadouts that we know and love from SmackDown. And by that, I mean each wrestler has about 6 moves. Yeah, not exactly setting any world records here, right? Triangle, usually, is a submission move. Triangle and a direction is another submission move. Circle is a grapple. Circle and a direction is another grapple. Get your opponent groggy and your 2 circle moves transform into 2 heavier moves. That's about it. Go behind your opponent, you got a couple more. There's that. You've got submissions at the head and feet on the ground. Throw a guy off the ropes and you got something here. But this is it. SmackDown tying a different move to left, right, up, and down, both from the ready and groggy states, is light years beyond anything Power Move has to offer. From The Judge to Zombie, from Area 51 to Agent Orange, we've got a roster of 12 playable wrestlers to start with. Unfortunately, even with the extremely shallow movesets, most of these guys are still sharing the majority of their maneuvers. And when you're not used to who is who just yet, sometimes you can get tripped up. In this match, you would assume the guy wearing bright fucking orange is probably the guy with orange in his name, right? Well, it isn't. That's Chain Gang. Amazing. One annoying aspect is that you are going to have to go out of your way to win matches by pinfall, as more often than not, a random-ass side headlock is going to be enough to earn a submission. I'm serious. I had to make a conscious effort to not apply a hold in the later stages of a match if I wanted any footage of a 3 count. It's a problem. One of the more interesting features here in Power Move is the ability to play a match and save it. Not highlights, not the final 30 seconds leading into the finish. I'm talking about the entire thing, as if you had popped a tape into your VCR and pressed record. And yeah, tape. This was 1995 in Japan, 1996 in the States. Back then, we taped things that we wanted to keep. I know, because I was there. UFC 82, I don't. Dan Henderson versus Anderson Silva. This means I was still taping things in 2008. Goodness gracious. But look, my dad was a big fight fan, as was I. He had a garbage work schedule, and if there was a big main event to a pay-per-view, if there was a big title fight and he didn't want to miss it, I would pop a tape in the VCR and hit record so that we could catch up on it the next day. Great memories, man. Great memories. While I'm talking about my dad, here's a little story for you. Power Move offers the player a choice. Do you want the camera on the first floor or up in the balcony? I don't know who the hell would want the camera all the way up here. It's a little disorienting, but it made me think of something my dad said one time while we were watching Nitro. It was Chris Jericho versus Booker T, and they did that thing that they do when you have a large house. They pulled the camera way back so that you could see at home how many people were in the arena. And I remember my dad standing there going like, look how big that crowd is. Oh, these seats would be terrible though. From up here it would just look like a black bowling pin smashing into a white bowling pin. Which is an amazing line that I remember to this day. Oh man, he had a way with words. After Cain Velasquez nearly beat him to death, my dad described Antonio Bigfoot Silva as looking like 30 miles of bad road. Another legendary line. We can hold championship matches, the records of which are kept on our memory card, which is cool. We can run tournaments, both standard, single elimination style, and round robin, which is as Japanese as it gets. And those are about our only options. There are 0 gimmick matches to speak of, and geez, we don't even have tag team wrestling. 1-on-1, every time. That's it. The title matches don't come with any representation of the belt, which is a bummer for a belt mark like me. But on the plus side, we can unlock a few more characters to mess around with, including the ring announcer, Gorgon, as well as the referee, Rathburn Sally. This is going to sound funny, but Sally is without a doubt one of the best and most fun wrestlers on the roster. His shooting star press is out of control.
$15 minutes. 1, 2, 3.
And if we can turn over to another unlockable wrestler, Sparrow, check out the green mist. Gee, I wonder whose model Sparrow was painted over from the original game, right? Power Move Pro Wrestling is a game that I feel not that many people owned back in the day. And being that it did not get a PlayStation Greatest Hits re-release, you know what I'm talking about, the fancy green label, we know that Power Move did not sell over 150,000 copies. Now, if we're just being honest with ourselves, I think it's pretty clear that it probably did not even approach that number. My personal recollection with Power Move Pro Wrestling, because yes, I do have one, is as follows. It was 1998, I was at a friend's house and we were flipping through his PlayStation games, messing around and looking for something to play. Being that it was 1998, wrestling was all the rage. When I saw Power Move in his collection, I was excited. What was this? What the hell is Power Move? Who are all of these guys? We got it running and I thought it was amazing. Seriously, I had WCW Nitro at home. Power Move buried Nitro. I was so excited when I found out that the guy that I thought looked the coolest also had my favorite wrestler's move. Yeah, Area 51 can apply the Scorpion Deathlock. We played a match or two. I specifically remember being disqualified by the referee at one point for not breaking my Scorpion Deathlock while the ref was counting to 5. And for the record, I did not break the hold because I didn't know how. And then that was it. We just went and did something else, or it was lunchtime or something. I have no idea. But that was it for like 20 years. Those were the memories I held on to. Cool game. That blue guy I played as, and I think he had Sting's moves. That was pretty cool. That's all I had. Those were my memories. And if you want to know what's really sad about it, I don't even know which friend that was. It must have been somebody that I got along with at school whose house I went to maybe 2 or 3 times, and I eventually moved away and I haven't heard from him since. So Brian, Mike, Eddie, or Ricky, whichever one of you that was, we had fun that day. I enjoyed playing Power Move Pro Wrestling with you, and I hope you're well. You will never see this, but I hope you are well. In coming back to Power Move Pro Wrestling, I enjoyed that nostalgic overload. After 30 or 45 minutes, though, I'd seen and done pretty much everything there is to see and do. Is this a bad game? No, I don't think that would be fair to say. From the limited movesets and nothing in terms of gimmick matches, this game feels like it's 20 years old. And, well, it's because it is. But even if it does feel dated, let's look at what else we had on the PlayStation in that era. WCW vs. the World would come a little later, and that one's good, but Nitro? Garbage. Thunder? Even worse. WrestleMania the arcade game and In Your House are novelties, but they're like, not really wrestling games, you know? For its time, Power Move was pretty impressive. It reviewed well, and in what might be the most amazing line in any review that year, Next Generation magazine famously stated, "If there's a game that screams for a WWF license and a US release, this is the one." A few short years later, Power Move's developer Ukes would form a tag team with the World Wrestling Federation. In March of 2000, the new standard in PlayStation wrestling games would arrive. Today, we raise a glass to the game that kicked it all off. Power Move Pro Wrestling, this one's for you.